Dr. Zara Vexhai pressed her blue-scaled hand against the cold metal surface of the ancient device. Her 4 eyes studied the strange symbols carved into its surface. She had been searching through the dead ruins of old star systems for 3 years, looking for traces of lost civilizations. This was different from anything she had ever found. "Jake, come look at this," she called to her partner. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison floated over in his spacesuit, his boots clicking against the metal floor of their research ship. He was one of the few humans working in this part of the galaxy. Far from the new Terra colonies where most of his people lived, Jake looked at the device through his helmet. It was about the size of a small car, covered in smooth metal that seemed to glow with a faint blue light. Strange writing covered every surface. "What do you think it is?" "I'm not sure," Zara said, her translator making her alien words sound like perfect English. "But look at these readings." She pointed to her scanner. "It's still active after all these years." "The power source is something I've never seen before." Professor Elena Blackwood joined them. She was older than the others, with gray hair and smart eyes that had studied dead languages for 40 years. "The writing is ancient," she said, running her fingers over the symbols. "But it's not like anything in our databases." They had found the device floating in what used to be a solar system. Now it was just empty space filled with dust and broken rocks. Whatever planets had once circled the star were long gone. Only this strange beacon remained, drifting alone in the darkness. "We need to get this back to the station," Jake said. "Professor Chun will want to see this." It took them 6 hours to move the device into their ship's cargo bay. When they docked at Kepler Station, news of their discovery spread quickly. Scientists from dozens of different species came to look at the mysterious beacon. Professor Elena worked day and night to decode the symbols. Jake helped her, comparing the writing to old human languages he remembered from school. Zara studied the technology, trying to understand how it worked. On the 3rd day, Elena made a breakthrough. "I think I know what this is," she said, calling the others to her lab. "It's a message beacon. These symbols here, they're instructions for how to activate it." "A message from who?" Jake asked. Elena looked at him with strange eyes. "I think it might be from your people, Jake, original humans." "From Earth itself?" Jake felt his heart stop. Earth was a legend to most humans now. The old stories said it was destroyed long ago, but no one really believed it had existed. Most people thought it was just a myth. "That's impossible," Jake said. "Earth is just a story." "Look at these symbols," Elena said, pointing to a section of the writing. "They match old human writing from thousands of years ago. And this power signature, it's like nothing we've seen before. Advanced beyond anything current humans have." Zara touched the beacon again. "If this is really from Earth, then it's been broadcasting for 40,000 years. The power source should have died long ago." "Unless they built it to last forever," Elena said quietly. They spent another week preparing to activate the beacon. The station commander, Admiral Ross Martinez, gave them permission to try. Scientists from across the galaxy watched as Elena input the activation sequence. The beacon hummed to life. The blue glow grew brighter. Then, without warning, the lab filled with light and sound. But it wasn't just light and sound. Jake felt something else, something that made his heart race and his eyes fill with tears. He could feel emotions that weren't his own. Fear, sadness, but also hope and love. A woman's voice spoke from the beacon. She sounded tired and scared, but also determined. "My name is Dr. Catherine Wells. If you're hearing this, then Earth is gone and I am dead, but our message lives on." The voice continued, and Jake felt like he was standing in the room with her. He could smell smoke and feel the heat of fires. He could hear explosions in the distance. "I am the last human on Earth," the voice said. "Our sun is dying. Our planet is burning. But I want you to know that we were here, we lived, we loved. We hoped, even now, as everything ends, we still hope." The message played for 10 minutes. Dr. Wells talked about humanity's greatest achievements. Not their wars or their technology, but their kindness to each other. Their willingness to sacrifice for strangers. Their ability to find hope even in the darkest times. We're leaving this message for whoever finds it, Dr. Wells said. Learn from us, be better than us, don't make our mistakes. But most importantly, never stop hoping. Never stop believing that tomorrow can be better than today. When the message ended, the lab was silent. Jake was crying inside his helmet. Zaraz. Blue skin had turned pale. Elena sat down heavily in her chair. We need to tell everyone, Jake said finally. The whole galaxy needs to hear this, are you sure? Admiral Martinez asked. This will change everything. Every species will want to know about Earth, about humans. Jake looked at the beacon, still glowing softly in the center of the room. She wanted people to hear it. That's why she built it to last forever. She wanted her message to survive. Within days, copies of the message were being sent across the galaxy. Every space station, every colony, every ship received Dr. Wells' final words. The message that had waited 40,000 years was finally reaching the stars. Jake stood in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was the place where Earth used to be, where a brave woman named Catherine Wells had given everything to make sure her people's hope would survive. The message was spreading now, moving from system to system like a wave of light. Soon, every thinking being in the galaxy would know that humans had existed, that they had loved and hoped and dreamed, and that their final gift to the universe was not technology or weapons, but the simple belief that things could always get better. The message spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within 2 weeks, every major space station had received a copy. Ships carried it to distant colonies. Traders shared it at busy ports. Soon, billions of beings had heard Dr. Catherine Wells' final words. Admiral Roy Henderson sat in his office on the Terran Colonial Fleet flagship, listening to the message for the 10th time. He was the highest-ranking human military officer in known space, responsible for protecting human colonies across 3 star systems. But this message changed everything he thought he knew about his own people. Sir, his aide Captain Danny Cooper entered the room. We're getting reports from all over the fleet. Crews are requesting permission to visit the Sol System. Roy looked up from his desk. The Sol System? That's what they're calling it now, sir. The system where Earth used to be, where the beacon was found. Roy stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see dozens of ships from different species all heading in the same direction. How many requests? Over 300 ships in the last day alone, and it's not just humans, sir. Krillian warships, ethereal research vessels, even some Dominion traders. Roy had never seen anything like it. The galaxy's most different species, all traveling to the same place. All because of words spoken by a woman who died 40,000 years ago on the planet Krylos Prime. General Vex Thorne stood before the High Command. The Krillian Empire had conquered 12 star systems in the past century. They were warriors who believed that only the strong deserved to survive. But the human message had shaken something deep in their culture. The human female speaks of sacrifice, General Thorne said to the assembled war leaders. She speaks of dying for others, not for glory or conquest, but for love. Commander Zach Ironheart, the most feared warrior in the Empire, spoke up. Weakness. Humans died because they were weak. Then why does this message make us feel strong? General Thorne asked. Why do our warriors weep when they hear it? The room fell silent. In the weeks since the message had reached Krylos Prime, fights had stopped. Soldiers questioned orders. Young warriors asked why they fought instead of how to fight better. Dr. Nina Foster worked in her small office on New Geneva, one of the largest human colonies. She taught philosophy at the university, but now her quiet life had turned upside down. Every day brought new messages from across the galaxy. Aliens asking about human history, wanting to know about human beliefs and ideas. Professor Foster, her assistant Martin Hayes, knocked on her door. The Zelenite Cultural Council is requesting a meeting. They want to know about something called unconditional love. Nina looked up from the pile of messages on her desk. What? About it? They say it's a human concept that doesn't exist in their culture. They want to understand it. Nina had received similar questions from dozens of species. The ethereals wanted to know about human art. The synthetic collective asked about human dreams. The Aquatic Federation questioned human concepts of friendship. Schedule the meeting, Nina said, and contact the other human colonies. We need to coordinate our response to these requests. In the depths of space, far from any star, the ethereal collective gathered. They were beings of pure energy who had existed for millions of years. They rarely spoke to physical beings, preferring to observe from a distance. But the human message had changed. That Elder Lumina, the oldest of the ethereals, spoke to the assembly. We watched the humans from their beginning. We saw them grow from simple creatures to space travelers. We mourned when their son died and their world burned. Why did we not help them? Asked younger Prism, barely 1,000 years old. Because we thought they were like all the others, Elder Lumina replied. We thought they would learn to survive or die trying. We did not understand that they carried something special. The ethereals had listened to the message with senses that could detect things physical beings could not. They heard not just words, but the pure emotion behind them. They felt the love that Dr. Wells had for people she would never meet. The humans called it hope, Elder Lumina continued. But it was more than hope. It was the belief that others could be better than they were. Even as they died, they believed in the goodness of strangers. Back on Kepler Station, Jake Morrison watched the news feeds with amazement. The message had started something that no one could have predicted. Species that had never talked to each other were now sharing ideas. Wars that had lasted centuries were ending. Trade routes that had been closed for decades were reopening. Look. At this, Professor Elena Blackwood showed him a report. The Aquatic Federation and the Desert Clans signed a peace treaty yesterday. They've been fighting for 300 years. Because of the message? The Federation ambassador said that if humans could hope for peace while their world was dying, then two species could learn to live together. Dr. Zara Vexhai was studying the beacon when she noticed something strange. The message isn't just repeating, she told Jake. It's changing, getting stronger. Jake looked at the readings. What do you mean? Each time someone new hears it, the quantum signature grows. It's like the message is feeding on the listener's emotions, getting more powerful. Across the galaxy, the effects continued to spread. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, factory workers started sharing their food with strangers. On the academic planet of Wisdom's Edge, scholars began working together instead of competing. On the trading hub of Market Central, merchants started giving fair prices instead of cheating customers. The message was doing something that laws and armies could not do. It was changing hearts and minds, making beings think about who they wanted to be instead of who they were. Admiral Henderson finally made his decision. He ordered the entire Terran colonial fleet to set course for the Sol system. We're going home, he told his crew. We're going to see where it all began, but they would not be alone. Ships from every corner of the galaxy were heading to the same place, all drawn by the words of a woman who had given everything to send hope to the stars. Dr. Catherine Wells' message had become something more than words. It had become a beacon that was bringing the galaxy together. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the starship New Horizon, watching the most amazing sight she had ever seen. Thousands of ships filled the space around them. Ships from every species in the galaxy, all heading to the same place. All coming to see where Earth used to be. Captain, her navigator Lieutenant Paul Davis called out. We're approaching the Sol system now. Lisa looked at the view screen as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. What she saw made her heart break. Where Earth's sun should have been shining brightly, there was only a dim red star, barely alive. Where planets should have been orbiting, there was only dust and broken rocks. My God, whispered Dr. Kevin Wright, the ship's science officer. It's all gone. But as they moved deeper into the system, they found something unexpected. The quantum beacon that Dr. Wells had built was still there, floating in the space where Earth used to be. And it was much bigger than anyone had thought. The readings are incredible, Dr. Wright said, studying his instruments. This thing has been broadcasting for 40,000 years without stopping. The power source is still running at full strength. Ships from across the galaxy formed a circle around the beacon. Krillian warships floated next to ethereal research vessels. Aquatic Federation ships stayed close to Desert Clan transports. All of them here because of one woman's final message, Admiral Roy. Henderson's flagship arrived with the main human fleet. He opened communications to all ships. "This is Admiral Henderson of the Terran Colonial Fleet. We're honored to welcome you all to humanity's birthplace." General Vex Thorn of the Krillian Empire responded first. "Admiral, we request permission to join the exploration. My warriors wish to honor the human who spoke of sacrifice." "Permission granted, General. All species are welcome here." Captain Lisa Grant led the first exploration team to the beacon. Jake Morrison, now promoted to commander, joined her along with Dr. Zara Vex High and Professor Elena Blackwood. They approached the beacon carefully in their small shuttle. "Look at this," Elena said as they got closer. "The beacon isn't just a transmitter, it's a marker. Those symbols there point to something else." Following the symbols, they found what Dr. Wells had left behind. Deep in the asteroid field that used to be Earth, hidden inside a large chunk of rock, was a bunker. Somehow, it had survived the destruction of the planet. "The quantum field around it is incredible," Zara said. "It's like a bubble of frozen time. Everything inside should be perfectly preserved." They cut through the rock carefully. Inside, they found Dr. Catherine Wells' final laboratory. The air was still breathable, the lights still worked. Coffee still sat warm in a cup on her desk, as if she had just stepped out for a moment. "This is impossible," Dr. Wright said. "Nothing could survive what happened to this planet." But there it was, Dr. Wells' last refuge, kept alive by technology that no one in the galaxy understood. And inside they found treasures beyond imagination. "Look at this," Lisa said, opening a storage unit. "It's full of data crystals, thousands of them." Elena examined the crystals. "It's everything, the entire history of humanity. Art, music, literature, science, philosophy, she saved it all." In the center of the bunker, they found Dr. Wells' personal workspace. Her final logs were still playing on a screen. Jake approached it carefully and activated the recording. Dr. Wells' face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and scared, but her eyes were determined. "If you're watching this, then someone found my message. Someone came looking for us," the recording continued. "I know our sun is dying. I know our world will burn. But I couldn't let humanity's story end with death. We were more than just another species. We learned to love without reason, to hope without proof, to sacrifice for people we'd never meet." The recording showed Dr. Wells working alone in her bunker as the world ended above her. She had chosen to stay behind while others tried to escape. She had chosen to save humanity's memory instead of her own life. "I'm putting everything we ever were into this beacon," she said in the recording. "Not just our history, but our spirit. Our belief that the universe can be better than it is. That every being can choose to be good." Outside the bunker, the different species were already working together. Krillian engineers helped ethereal scientists study the beacon. Aquatic Federation ships shared their water with Desert Clan vessels. Human pilots guided alien ships through the dangerous asteroid field. "This is remarkable," said Elder Lumina of the Ethereals, speaking to Admiral Henderson. "We have never seen cooperation like this. Your Dr. Wells has done something we thought impossible." "What's that?" Henderson asked. "She has made the galaxy remember what it means to hope." Commander Jake Morrison found Dr. Wells' final message in her personal files. It was shorter than the beacon's broadcast, but somehow more powerful. "I don't know who will find this," the message began, "but I know someone will. Because that's what intelligent beings do. They explore. They learn. They hope. That's why I built this beacon to last forever. Not to remember our death, but to celebrate our life." The message continued. "We humans were not perfect. We made mistakes, we hurt each other, we hurt our world. But we also loved, we created beauty, we reached for the stars. And in our final moments, we chose to give rather than take. As news, Of the bunker's contents spread through the gathered fleet, something amazing happened. The different species began to organize themselves into work groups. The Krillians volunteered to guard the system. The Ethereals offered to help preserve the technology. The Aquatic Federation proposed to build a research station. "We're witnessing the birth of something new," Dr. Nina Foster said from her ship. She had come from New Geneva with a team of human philosophers. "This isn't just about remembering the past. It's about building the future." Within days, the asteroid field that had once been Earth became the most important place in the galaxy. Ships arrived constantly, bringing scientists, artists, and philosophers from every known species. They came to study Dr. Wells' archives, but they stayed to work together. The beacon continued to broadcast, but now it wasn't alone. The message that had started with one woman's hope had become a song sung by the entire galaxy. 6 months after the discovery of Dr. Wells' bunker, the galaxy had changed in ways no one thought possible. Commander Alex Torres stood on the observation deck of the new memorial station, watching ships from dozens of species work together to build something that had never existed before. "The construction is ahead of schedule," reported Lieutenant Carol Newman, his chief engineer. "The Krillians finished the defense grid yesterday. The Ethereals have the quantum stabilizers running perfectly. Even the synthetic collective sent helper robots." Alex nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the reports coming in from across the galaxy, wars ending, trade agreements being signed, species that had been enemies for centuries now working together on joint projects. "It's not just about the station," he said to Carol. "It's about what Dr. Wells' message is doing to everyone." In the research labs built into the station, Dr. Ben Clark worked with alien scholars to understand the vast archives found in Dr. Wells' bunker. The human anthropologist had been studying the files for months, but each day brought new discoveries. "Look at this," he said to his research partner, Dr. Yex Mindweaver of the Zelenite Cultural Council. "Dr. Wells didn't just save human history. She saved human feelings." Ben activated a holographic display showing a human family gathering. The projection was so real that both scientists felt like they were standing in the room watching a mother hug her children, listening to a father tell stories, feeling the love that filled the space. "We have records of our own history," Dr. Mindweaver said, her blue skin changing colors as she experienced emotions. "But nothing like this. We recorded facts. You humans recorded hearts." The archives contain millions of such recordings. Human weddings where people promised to love each other forever. Human funerals where people cried for those they had lost. Human births where parents felt joy beyond words. Human art that captured beauty no one had ever seen. This is why the message affects everyone so strongly, Ben realized. It's not just words, it's pure human emotion preserved in quantum form. But not everyone was happy with the changes happening across the galaxy. In the dark corners of space, the Dominion Lords met in secret. They were a group of species that believed in the old ways, the strong ruling the weak, the powerful taking what they wanted. Lord Commander Vex Darkstar, leader of the Shadow Fleet, addressed the gathering. "This human contamination must be stopped. Our children now speak of love instead of conquest. Our warriors ask why they fight instead of how to kill better." "The message is a weapon," agreed General Kron Bloodfist of the War Clans. "It weakens the mind, makes being soft and foolish." The Dominion Lords had been watching the transformation of the galaxy with growing anger. Species that had served them for centuries were now questioning their rule. Young beings were choosing cooperation over conflict. The old order was crumbling. "We must destroy the source," Lord Darkstar decided. "Burn the Sol System. End this madness before it spreads further." Meanwhile, on the memorial station, the Ethereals had made a shocking discovery. Elder Lumina met with Commander Torres and the other leaders to share what they had learned. "The beacon is more than a transmitter," Elder Lumina explained, her energy form glowing brighter as she spoke. "It contains a fragment of human consciousness. Dr. Wells somehow put part of her own mind into the quantum field." "What does that mean?" asked Admiral Henderson, who had arrived from the human fleet. It means she's still here, in a way. Her thoughts, her feelings, her hope. Every time someone hears the message, they're touched by her consciousness. Not controlled, but inspired. General Vex Thorn of the Krillian Empire leaned forward. You're saying this human female is still alive? Not alive as we understand it, Elder Lumina replied, but her essence continues. The beacon doesn't just broadcast her words, it broadcasts her spirit. This revelation sent shockwaves through the gathered leaders. Dr. Wells hadn't just saved human history. She had found a way to share human nature itself with the galaxy. That's why the message keeps getting stronger, realized Dr. Zara Vex High. Each person who hears it adds their own hope to the quantum field. Dr. Wells started it, but now it's growing on its own. The implications were staggering. The beacon wasn't just a recording anymore. It was a living thing, fed by the hopes and dreams of billions of beings across the galaxy. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, studied the latest reports from the intelligence networks. We're picking up movement in the Outer Rim, large fleets gathering. Ships we don't recognize. The Dominion Lords, General Thorne said grimly. I know their symbols. They're planning something. How many ships? Admiral Henderson asked. At least 3,000, maybe more. They're calling in favors from every species that still believes in the old ways. Commander Torres looked out at the memorial station's construction. Ships from across the galaxy worked together, building something beautiful in the place where Earth used to be. It was a symbol of hope and cooperation. They're coming to destroy this, aren't they? He said. The station, the beacon, everything, Jake confirmed. They want to end what Dr. Wells started. Elder Lumina's energy form flickered with determination. Then we must defend it. Not just the station, but the idea it represents. How many ships can we gather? Admiral Henderson asked. Every species that's been touched by the message, General Thorne replied. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. But the Dominion Lords have been preparing for this. They have weapons we've never seen. As the leaders made their plans, the beacon continued to broadcast. Dr. Wells' message echoed through space, reaching new beings every day. Her hope was spreading like a wave of light across the galaxy, but darkness was coming too. The Dominion Lords were gathering their forces, determined to snuff out the light forever. The galaxy was about to face its greatest test. The question was whether hope could survive when faced with those who wanted to destroy it. The attack came without warning. Captain Rachel Stone was drinking coffee on the bridge of the Starship Unity when the alarm bells started ringing. Through the view screen, she saw the most terrifying sight in the galaxy. 3,000 ships of the Dominion Lords, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. All ships, this is Captain Stone, she spoke into her communicator. Battle stations. Protect the memorial station at all costs. The defense fleet was impressive, but they were outnumbered 3-1. Ships from every corner of the galaxy had come to defend Dr. Wells' beacon. Human vessels flew alongside Krillian warships. Ethereal research ships fought next to Aquatic Federation cruisers. They're targeting the beacon, reported Lieutenant Mike Carter from the weapons station. Lord Darkstar's flagship is heading straight for it. Rachel watched as the enemy ships opened fire. The memorial station's shields held, but barely. The beacon itself was protected by quantum fields, but even those were beginning to weaken under the massive assault. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the defense from his flagship, the New Earth. All units form up around the beacon. Don't let them through. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not just because of the number of ships, but because of why they were fighting. The defenders weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for an idea. For hope itself, General Vex Thorne led the Krillian attack wing against the Dominion Lords' heavy cruisers. His warriors fought with a fury that surprised even themselves. They were no longer fighting for conquest or glory. They were fighting to protect something precious. For Dr. Wells, Thorne shouted over the battle communications. For the human who taught us to hope. The cry was taken up by ships across the battlefield. Beings who had never met Dr. Catherine Wells, who had lived thousands of years after her, Death fought in her name, but the Dominion Lords were winning. Their ships were newer, their weapons more powerful. Slowly, the defense lines began to break. "We can't hold them," Admiral Henderson reported from his damaged ship. "They're breaking through on all sides." That's when Dr. Wells' quantum beacon began to act strangely. The blue light that had glowed steadily for 40,000 years started to pulse faster. The message that had been broadcasting the same words began to change. "Something's happening to the beacon," Dr. Zara Vexhai called from the memorial station. "The quantum field is overloading. It's like the beacon is trying to do something new." Elder Lumina of the Ethereals was the first to understand. "The beacon is responding to the threat. Dr. Wells built it to protect her message. If it's about to be destroyed, it will fight back." "How can a beacon fight?" asked Commander Torres. "By becoming more than a beacon," Lumina replied. "By becoming what it was always meant to be." The beacon's pulse grew faster. The quantum field around it began to expand. Ships near the beacon started to report strange readings on their instruments. "The message is changing," reported Professor Elena Blackwood from the research station. "It's not just Dr. Wells' voice anymore. I'm hearing other voices too." The beacon was drawing on the hopes and dreams of everyone who had ever heard the message. Every being who had been touched by Dr. Wells' words was now part of the quantum field. Their combined hope was becoming something physical. Lord Commander Darkstar's flagship broke through the defense lines and aimed its most powerful weapon at the beacon. "End this madness," he ordered. "Destroy the human contamination forever," the weapon fired. A beam of pure destruction shot toward the beacon. But instead of destroying it, something impossible happened. The beacon absorbed the attack and used the energy to grow stronger. "That's impossible," Dr. Ben Clark said, watching from the memorial station. "The beacon just ate their weapon's energy." The beacon's light grew brighter than any star. The quantum field expanded outward, washing over every ship in the battle. And in that moment, everyone felt it, Dr. Wells' presence, as real as if she was standing next to them. "Hello," her voice spoke directly into their minds. "I'm sorry it took so long to reach you all." The Dominion Lord's ships stopped firing. Their crews were overwhelmed by the emotion flowing from the beacon. They felt Dr. Wells' love, her hope, her absolute belief that even they could choose to be better. "This is not possible," Lord Darkstar said, his voice shaking. "You are dead. Your species is extinct." "Death is just another word for change," Dr. Wells' voice replied. "And extinction is just another word for transformation. We didn't die. We became something new." The beacon's light reached every corner of the galaxy, every planet, every space station, every ship. The message that had started with one woman's hope was now part of the fabric of space itself. "You came here to destroy hope," Dr. Wells continued. "But hope cannot be destroyed. It can only grow stronger when challenged." The Dominion Lord's ships began to withdraw. Their crews were crying inside their helmets. Hardened warriors who had known only violence were feeling love for the first time. "We will not be stopped," Lord Darkstar said, but his voice had lost its power. "You don't have to be stopped," Dr. Wells replied. "You can choose to join us, you can choose to hope." One by one, the Dominion Lord's ships powered down their weapons. The battle was over, but not because anyone had won or lost. It was over because no one wanted to fight anymore. The beacon's light settled into a gentle glow that could be seen from anywhere in the galaxy. Dr. Wells' message was no longer just a recording. It was alive, part of the quantum structure of space itself. Rachel Stone looked out at the stars, now glowing with the soft light of hope. "What happens now?" "Now," Jake Morrison said, "we learn to live up to her example. We learn to be the beings she believed we could become." The galaxy had changed forever. Dr. Catherine Wells' final message had become eternal, woven into the very fabric of reality. Her hope would guide future generations for as long as the stars burned. And somewhere in the quantum field, a woman who had died 40,000 years ago smiled, knowing that her greatest dream had finally come true. The universe was better than it had been, and it would keep getting better one hope at a time?